Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing the cards I made using Love From Lizi's March 2021 card kit. The theme is Make It Bloom. As I'm recording this voiceover, the kit and most of the add-ons are still available. I will have links provided in the description box if you are interested in any of the items I show in this video. It's a beautiful kit, perfect for Easter or spring cards. Let's go ahead and get started with card number 1. I'm using a card sketch from OWH. This is number 146. I have this beautiful floral paper for the background and some teal gingham paper for the strip that goes across the front of the card. I'm going to layer all of these on some teal cardstock, and this is cardstock from my stash. The kit does include some solid cardstock, but since I add a lot of layers to my cards, I always bring in some extra cardstock from my craft room. I'm adding some Love From Lizi peel-offs to this teal gingham paper. This is the pinstripe style in the clear silver mirror color. Put some ATG on the back and layer it on that teal cardstock, and then I'll put my card front onto a card base. For this card, I'm going to leave that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. And if you are interested, most of my matted layers are an additional 1/8 of an inch to the measurements listed on the card sketches. For the banner that goes across the card, I decided to just use some more of the solid cardstock. I didn't want to mix any more busy pattern papers with the two that are already on the card. I'm using one of the ephemera pieces that's included in the kit. This is Spring is in the Air. Before I adhere that to the card, I did add some scrap pieces of cardstock to the upper area just to keep everything nice and level. I decided to pop up that ephemera piece using some foam dimensional tape. Just make sure to get good coverage so there isn't an area that sags, and then adhere it to my card. For one final finishing touch, I'll bring in the mini circle peel-offs in the silver mirror color. I'm using the largest size and putting 3 of them in the upper right-hand corner. It'll add some really nice shine. I also decided to add a little bit of sparkle to the center of the hearts. I'm using Nuvo glitter drops in the white blizzard color. Just putting a tiny drop in the center. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 1. Now moving on to card number 2. The pattern paper that's included in the kit is 6 by 8 inches. Some of the patterns have large images or sentiments on one side. You can always use the opposite side if you don't want to use those large images, but I decided to use this fun rainbow. I cut it out using a stitched rectangle die. I have ATG on the back of this panel, but I'm also adding a thin layer of liquid adhesive along the edge, just so it doesn't warp along the edge where it's that stitched detail. And I noticed I had a small piece of the cardstock tag on the back, had to remove that. I'll put my card front onto a card base. Since the main background of the card is white, I decided to go with a wider matted layer. So that pink cardstock is an additional 1/4 of an inch versus the 1/8 of an inch. I'm using the Sunshine ephemera piece, and I popped that up with some thin foam squares. I'm also adding this sun sticker. I decided to remove the adhesive on the back of this sticker since I want to pop it up using some thin foam squares. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sun to the upper left-hand corner above the rainbow. And I'm also going to add this sweet little bird, and I've done the same thing. It was one of the stickers, so I just put some of the anti-static powder on the back and then some foam squares. I did have to cut some of those pieces fairly thin to get on its tail and beak. And I felt the card needed a little something extra, so I'm using the new peel-offs that are included in the kit. This is the pink color, and it has a silver foil edging. It's beautiful. I'm adding the medium and the thinnest width to the lower portion of the card. Then I'll just trim the edge with my craft knife once I get them down nice and straight. Of course, after I looked at that last one, it was not straight at all, so I just pulled it back up and trimmed it down. Then I decided to add a little extra sparkle to the card. I'm using a glitter brush from scrapbook.com. I'm going to add it to all of the little flowers and also the rainbow. Just a quick and simple way to add that beautiful sparkle. The glitter in this brush doesn't flake off the card, but it will wipe off if you touch it with your finger. So if you donate your cards, make sure that it's safe to have even that little bit of glitter. Now moving on to card number 3. I'll be using the add-on stamp set called Some Bunny Loves Me, and I have the 3 decorative eggs. I've already positioned everything in my MISTI since I want to get a good stamped impression. For the outer 2 eggs, I'm going to ink them up using some Catherine Pooler ink. This is called Party Dress, and I do need to ink these up several times. I love all the detail on the stamps. If you love to color images, this would be a really fun set. I don't color images, so I'm going to stick with some solid ink instead. Now after I've stamped those a few times and got a nice solid impression, I'll start working on that last egg. I'm using the Lime Ricky color. This is also a Catherine Pooler ink. So if you didn't notice before, I'm making a slimline card. So this will be 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. I'm going to put this image panel on a scalloped rectangle die cut. And this green cardstock is from the kit. Then I'll add it onto some pink cardstock, and this is cardstock I have on hand. It matched the ink pretty closely. So once I get that adhered, trying to make sure to get it centered, I'll put my card front onto a card base. And I know some people will be surprised I'm not using any pattern paper at all on this card. I just really wanted to feature these beautiful egg images. For the sentiment on my card, I'm using the Happy Easter dies that are included in the kit. I cut them out of some black cardstock, and I actually cut them out twice and glued them together for a little extra dimension. Put some liquid adhesive on the back and adhere them to the lower, a little more toward the right side of the card. I think having the black really makes it pop against those vibrant pink and green colors. Next, I'm using the clear iridescent glitter peel-offs in the pinstripe style. I have the thinnest width. I'll add one to the outside edge of this white cardstock. It's almost to the edge, it's slightly inside. And I will have that little bit hanging off the end. I'm going to be creating a frame. So it's okay to have that little bit extra. I will be cutting that off. So I'll adhere my final strip, just trying to make sure to get them nice and straight. Then I'll take my craft knife and miter the corners to create that frame. And then just remove those extra pieces. The clear iridescent glitter peel-offs go really nicely with the green and pink, since the glitter that's embedded in them has a little bit of a green or pink look depending on how the light hits it. So I'll just finish off those final corners. And then one final finishing touch, I'm going to add some of the sequins that are included in the kit. There's this really bright, vibrant green sequin color. So I thought it would tie in nicely with the green ink and also that green cardstock. I'll put 3 of them in the lower right-hand corner and then 2 in the upper left-hand corner. I'm using an embellishment wand to help pick those up, and then I'll attach them to the card using some liquid adhesive. I kept changing my mind on the placement with those 3 in the bottom right-hand corner. Slimline cards are fun since you can add extra images or larger sentiments. It's still not my main card size. I really prefer the American Standard A2 size, but it's fun to do a slimline every once in a while. So there is my finished card, and that is card number 3. For cards 4 through 6, I'm using the March 2021 sheet load of cards from Call Me Crafty Al. I had so much fun with it, I ended up making 3 cards, but I'll only show the assembly of 1. I have this beautiful floral paper for this upper square. I think it's more of a rectangle. And then this pink gingham paper for the other piece. I rounded the bottom 2 corners, and I'm layering it on some dark teal cardstock. For that scallop strip that goes across the card, I used a fun stitch die from Pretty Pink Posh. And I'm adding some of the beautiful peel-offs that are included in the kit just along the top area of this scallop border. You're not going to see most of it, so I only put a small piece on the outer edges. I'm going to add some double-sided tape to the back before adhering it to the card. I'll put my card front onto a card base, and for this card I'm leaving 1/4 of an inch of the white card base showing. Then I'll remove the release paper and attach this scallop border. Instead of the circle that's indicated on the sketch, I'm using one of the tags that's included in the kit. I've already trimmed it out and then used a hole punch to cut out the hole on the top of the tag. Before adhering it to the card, I'm adding some scrap cardstock to the upper portion, just where it goes over all those other layers. And then I will pop up that whole tag using some foam tape. I'm trying to get good coverage so there isn't an area that sags. If you are interested in any of the sketches I use in this video, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. That link is provided in the description box, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. Once I remove all the release paper from the tag, I'll attach it to the right side of the card. Since the bunny is facing left, I thought it looked better to have the bunny tag on the right side. I'm using some of the pink skinny ribbon that's included in the kit and tying a small bow. I am not an expert at bow tying at all, but I can usually handle it with the skinny ribbon. I'll just trim down the tail, and then I was trying to figure out where I wanted to place it. Since part of the bunny's ear is already covered up from that little circle around the hole in the tag, I decided to attach it there. So I just used a small glue dot and adhered it to the card. Then I'm using one of the ephemera pieces. This is Hippity Hop. I'm going to adhere that to the left of the bunny. I'll also add some foam tape to the left side of that ephemera piece so that it's at the same level as the tag, and then put some liquid adhesive on the other portion. And try to make sure to get the sentiment nice and straight. For embellishments on the card, I'm using the sequin mix, this time just the pink color in the small size. I'll put 3 of them in the upper left-hand corner. The background paper is fairly busy, but the sequin still shows since it has that little bit of sparkle. Use some liquid adhesive, put small drops on the card, and then attach those sequins. And I like to use the opposite end of the embellishment wand to help press them in place. Then one final finishing touch, I'm using the pink clear iridescent peel-offs in the mini circle style. I put 2 in the lower right-hand corner of the tag. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 more using this sketch. One is fairly similar with the same pattern papers, but then the other I used some different pattern papers, and that scallop piece in the middle is one of the sticker strips that's included in the kit. Now moving on to card number 7. I'm using a sketch from Mojo Monday. This is number 554. I have some white pearlescent paper for the background, and that is from the add-on pearlescent bundle. I have some purple cardstock and also some yellow cardstock that has a pearlescent finish. I have this fun purple polka dot paper for that larger rectangle that's in the background. Not going to see most of it. I layered that with some more purple cardstock. And then I'll just add all of these layers together. Lots of yellow and purple on this card. I'm put my card front onto a card base. And for those small squares that are on the sketch, I used a stitch square die and the fun plaid paper. I thought about layering those squares, but decided not to. I kind of like that soft look it has. Before adhering the squares to the card, I will add that scrap piece of cardstock, just a very thin strip on the outside edge. This will just help level out those pieces, and there won't be that noticeable dent from the edge of the purple pattern paper and cardstock. I'll put some ATG tape on the back and start adhering those 3 squares. This is a really fun sketch. It's one of the newer ones from Mojo Monday. I think I've used it 2 or 3 times now. I love to reuse sketches since there's so many good ones out there. For the image on the card, I'm using one of the 3x4 cut-aparts. I have a circle die, and I'm just going to cut out that beautiful butterfly. I also cut out a larger circle die cut from purple cardstock so I could have the matted layer around the butterfly. I'll adhere those together using some liquid adhesive, and I will put that scrap piece of cardstock underneath the lower right hand area because it's not really a corner. Put some more liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it to the card. I am following this card sketch fairly closely. For the sentiment, I'm using another sticker. I'll use the anti-static powder and wipe it on the adhesive side to remove that stickiness. And I'll put some foam dimensional tape on the back side so I can still add a little bit of dimension. Now with all that static powder, I noticed some of the foam tape was pulling away, so I'm going to put just a drop of liquid adhesive underneath. Don't want it to fall off later on. And then I'll adhere that to the card on the right hand side above the image using some more of the beautiful sequins, this time in the blue color. Put 2 of them in the upper left hand corner and then 3 in the lower right hand corner. I've mentioned this in some other videos before. I have a problem about mixing colors of sequins or embellishments. I tend to only use one color. When I try to mix the colors, it just never looks right to me. But for some reason, when I see other people do it, it looks great. It's very odd. I don't know why we see things different when it's our own card. Now, if I didn't mention it earlier, I'm using Barely Art liquid glue. I really like this glue. It holds sequins or any little embellishment very nicely. To finish off the card, I'm adding some glossy accents to a few of the details on the butterfly, on the heart and the center of the flowers, just for a little extra detail. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 7. I really like how this one turned out. Now moving on to card number 8. The card sketch is from Mojo Monday. It's number 533. I have this beautiful floral paper for the background that has this fun mustardy yellow color, and then some teeny tiny little flowers. And they look white, but they're very light pink. For the strip that goes on the left-hand side of the card, I'm using some pink gingham paper. Decided to cut a fishtail on the end. I'm layering all of this with some dark green cardstock. For the strip that goes across the card, I decided just to bring in some solid cardstock. I think any other pattern paper would have been just too busy. Before I adhere it to the card, I will add those scrap pieces of cardstock to keep everything nice and level. Then I'll also use some Love From Lizi peel-offs in the pinstripe style. This is the racing green color, using the thinnest width and just putting it along the edge of that green cardstock. It matches that cardstock almost perfectly, and it'll add just that little bit of shine. Put this panel onto that dark green cardstock, then I can add my card front to the card base. I'll leave 1/8 of an inch of that white card base showing. For the sentiment on the card, I'm using one of the tags that's included in the kit. I just trimmed off the hole or that little tag portion on the end. I'm going to layer this on some cardstock that matches fairly closely to that pattern paper. I was trying to decide where I wanted to place it on the card. Before adhering it to the card, I will use that scrap cardstock on the upper portion, just trying to keep everything nice and level. This is a great way to use up some of that scrap cardstock that most paper crafters have on hand. Once I think all of those layers are even, I can run my hand across the front to see if there's any noticeable dents. I'll put some liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it to my card. There is quite a bit of white space underneath the bloom sentiment, so I'm going to use one of the wood pieces that's included in the kit, this beautiful flower. I love to do heat embossing to decorate these little wooden pieces. Super simple. I have some Versamark ink, and my pad is very stained from doing exactly this. I just press that wood piece into the ink, and then I'm using Love From Lizi's Fuschia Purple embossing powder. Just sprinkled it on the top, and now I'll heat set it with my heat gun. I think this purple color matches really nicely with that mustard yellow pattern paper. So now it'll have a little bit of shimmer, and it doesn't have that solid wood color anymore, which is also pretty, but I like to decorate it up just a bit. To adhere it to my card, I'll use Ranger's Multi-Medium Matte Adhesive. This works really nicely for the wood embellishments. And I dropped it, and I'm so happy I didn't drop the adhesive side down. You know, it usually works that way, adhesive all over your card. Then I'll pull out the sticker sheet and use the sentiment in full bloom, but I'm going to cut off the word bloom since I already have that on this cut apart or this tag, and I'll just adhere that right above the word bloom. Ties in nicely with all that dark green on the card. Now using some of the gold glitter peel-offs in the pinstripe style, I'm going to put 3 of them underneath the sentiment. And I'll just use my craft knife to cut the end. And I'm also having the left-hand side stagger slightly so it goes around that flower. But on the right-hand side, I'll cut them all at the same spot. So I have the largest to the narrowest width. And this also will tie in that mustard yellow color with the gold glitter. Then a couple of finishing touches. I'm going to add some sparkle to the word bloom using the glitter brush. And mine was super juicy. I had to wipe it off on some scrap cardstock real quick. I'll also add a couple of sequins to the upper right-hand corner. This time I'll use just the pink color. I have the large sequin and then that smaller sequin. Put some liquid adhesive on the card and adhere them in the upper right-hand corner. It's usually recommended to use embellishment in odd numbers. So I have the 2 sequins and the flower, so that puts me at the odd number of 3. And it does really balance out everything nicely. Now moving on to card number 9. This is my favorite card, and it's also my favorite pattern paper. So beautiful pink tulips in the background. And this is actually some of the add-on 12x12 paper pack. But there is the same pattern paper included in the kit, just a smaller scale. I layered that with some green cardstock. Then I'm going to add a couple of strips across the card. I have a pink scallop border and then a stitched green cardstock strip. We'll put some liquid adhesive on the back. I also have some double stick tape on that green strip. Then I'll adhere it to my card. And it worked out nicely to just cover up 1 row of flowers. And yes, this sweet little bunny tag just suddenly appeared on my card. Sometimes I lay them out while I'm trying to figure out the design and I forget that I didn't record pulling it out. This is one of the ephemera pieces that's included in the kit. I'm just adding some of that scrap cardstock to the upper portion, and then I'll pop up the entire tag using some thin foam squares. And I have to use quite a few so I get nice even coverage. You can remove all the release paper and then adhere it to the left side of the card, and I'm going to put it at an angle just for some extra interest. That bunny is so sweet. And I'll flip over the card and trim off the extra little cardstock strips. Using another ephemera piece, this is the sentiment Funny Bunny. And it has 2 little pink hearts on either side of the sentiment. I'm also going to use the flower dies that are included in the kit. So it has the larger flower and then it has that smaller flower piece. And the smaller one cuts out the little circle center, but I decided to add it back in. So I'm just using some liquid adhesive and gluing those pieces together. I'll put 2 flowers in the upper right-hand corner and then 1 in the lower left-hand corner. And I'll pop up all of them using some thin foam squares. Now the one in the left-hand corner is quite a few layers going on right about there, so I did go and add one more foam square. But the ones in the upper right-hand corner were fine with just the one single foam square. Then final finishing touch, I'm going to use some of the pink clear iridescent peel-offs in the mini heart style. I'm going to cover up the hearts that are on the ephemera piece. So this will add just a little extra sparkle. I tried to use the smallest heart first, but it didn't cover the entire heart. So I went with the medium size instead. I'm also adding some mini circle peel-offs to the center of each of the flowers. For the yellow flower, I'll use the clear iridescent pink color. And for the pink flower, I'll use the clear iridescent mini circle. And then add just a tiny bit of glitter to the bunny's cheeks. So there is my finished card. I absolutely love this card. The colors are so fun and that bunny is adorable. But do let me know which card is your favorite. Now moving on to card number 10. The sketch is from MFT. It's number 467. For the background of the card, I have some pink pattern paper that has sort of a sprinkle rainfall look to it. I'm also using the pattern paper with a bunch of little rainbows on it. I'm trying to line it up so you're only going to see a full row of the rainbow. I don't want part of the rainbow to show. To help with the spacing, I decided to also cut that scallop border at the very bottom, and it'll shorten the card panel just a little bit so everything fit really nicely on the card. For a little separation between those two pattern papers, I'm using the peel-offs that are included in the kit, the beautiful pink with that silver foil edging. And then I have some pink cardstock. I'll add this thin strip just to the very lower portion of the card base. That way it doesn't have the white card base showing. And I did cut it just a little too wide, so I'm just going to trim that extra piece off. Then I can add this card front onto the card base. At least that's what I was going to do, and then remembered what my original plan was. I wanted to use this 4 circle die from Sunny Studio. It goes nicely with the sketch. And that way all those circles are lined up perfectly together. So I had intended on just cutting out that pattern paper piece, but instead I had to cut through the cardstock as well. So before I can adhere this to my card base, I'm going to use a lot of adhesive, just trying to make sure that all of it is going to stay in place. And I do have to push on the area between the circles quite a bit. I'll end up putting my acrylic block on there for the extra weight. So I'm going to set that aside and start working on the images. This is the stamp set that's included in the kit. There's 6 different decorative eggs and a bunch of fun sentiments. I pulled out all these lovely pastel colors. These are all Catherine Pooler inks. I'm going to ink up 3 of the eggs, all in different colors, and then I have the sentiment Happy Easter. Using my mini Misty so I can stamp them several times to get that good solid impression. So there they are all finished, and then I'll use that same circle die so I can cut out those images and they'll be able to fit inside the cutout openings. I decided to add the pink cardstock circles back inside the opening, since that was the original plan to have that cardstock behind. So I'm using some liquid adhesive, and I actually have them upside down. So it has that stitch detail upside down, but you're not going to see it since I'm going to add all of these little images and sentiments on top. I'm going to pop them up using some thin foam squares. I use both sizes of the foam squares since I want to make sure to get good coverage so there isn't an area that sags. So I did speed that portion up quite a bit. I'll remove the release paper and then start adding them onto the card. Just lining them up perfectly where those circles are. So even though I have that pink cardstock underneath, you don't really see it. There's just that edge you see, and that's why I didn't want to have the white behind. I like having that little pop of pink. So once those are all in place, I'm going to use the small pink heart sequins that are included. Well, at least again, that was my plan, but I changed my mind. So after I pull out several of them, moving them around on my card, trying to figure out placement, and I just didn't like the look at all. Although these sequins are very pretty. So I put them all away and decided to use one of the pre-tied white bows that's included in the kit. Put a small glue dot on the back and adhere it to the bottom center of the card. And I think that balanced it out much better. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 10. Now moving on to card number 11. The card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. It's number 456. I thought this sketch worked perfectly with one of the cut-aparts. These are the 3x4 inch cut-aparts. I only had to trim it down 1/4 of an inch, so this worked out really nicely. I have the plaid paper for the background, and then using some solid yellow cardstock that has a pearlescent finish for that strip that goes across the card, and also for this first layer. I'm going to layer it again on some blue cardstock. This is a very simple card. I'll add some little extra details so it's not just a cut apart on some pattern paper. I'll add that scrap piece of cardstock to the upper area of the cut apart. Just put some adhesive on the back and then adhere it to my card. I love this beautiful cut apart image with all the butterflies and the flowers. And even though those little butterflies are adorable, I decided to use some of the sticker butterflies instead to add a little bit of dimension. So I removed the adhesive, or at least covered it up with that anti-static powder, added some thin foam squares to the back, and then covered up those 2 little butterflies. And then I'll add 3 sequins in the upper right-hand corner using the light pink color. The kit includes quite a few of the 3x4 cut-aparts and also the full 12x12 sheet of tags. So it's really easy to assemble lots of cards using those fun image sentiment cut-aparts. Putting just a drop of glue, trying to get those 3 sequins nice and straight. And then one final finishing touch, I'm going to add some of the glossy accents to the center of each of the flowers. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 11. Now moving on to my final card, this is card number 12. I'm using a 4x4 cut apart from the 12x12 add-on pack. I love this sentiment, no rain, no flowers. This fits perfectly for Western Washington where I live, and we get quite a bit of rain. But it's okay because that means we get to look at all the beautiful flowers. North from where I live is Mount Vernon, and they have just the most beautiful tulip fields. I try to go there every single year. I was so sad I couldn't go there last year. They had to close it down because of the virus. So I'm hoping they will open it up this year so I can go see the tulips again. If you've ever looked at my website before, I have a picture of pink tulips that I took up at Mount Vernon a couple years ago. It really is just beautiful. So overall, this card is very simple. Can't do a whole lot when you have a large 4x4 cut apart. I did trim it down as much as possible without losing any of the image, and then layered it on some green cardstock. Then I brought in some teal and purple cardstock, cut some thin strips on the left-hand side. And then I'm also using some Love From Lizi peel-offs, just put it to the left of those cardstock strips. I'll layer this panel on some dark green cardstock, and that background paper is the white pearlescent paper. It's one of the add-ons you can purchase from Love From Lizi. I'll put some scrap cardstock on the right-hand side of the cut apart. Then I can adhere this to the card using some more ATG tape. Then I'll put my card front onto a card base. So you can still see some of that white pearlescent paper. It's not completely covered up. For a few finishing touches, I'm going to bring out that sequin mix, and this time I will use those pink hearts. I think they're iridescent pink hearts. I'll put 2 of them in the upper right hand corner, and then I'll put 1 above the sentiment toward the left. I'll add some glitter to the umbrella with the glitter brush, just for that little extra sparkle. And there is my finished card, and this is card number 12. So a very simple card design, but I think it still turned out really nice since those cut aparts are a lot of fun. Now here's just a quick recap of the 12 cards I made using Love From Lizi's March 2021 card kit. The theme is Make It Bloom, and this is a beautiful card kit. It's perfect for spring or Easter cards. As I'm recording this voiceover, the kit is still available, but it is a monthly kit and they do sell out every single month. The only way to guarantee receiving a kit is to subscribe. I will have links provided in the description box for the kit and all of the add-ons I used in this video. Even after making 12 cards, I still have quite a bit left over. I have 3 full sheets of the cardstock and a little over half of one of the other sheets of cardstock. Lots of paper scraps. There's a little bit of the tag sheets and then 3 full sheets of the pattern paper. Most of the sticker sheet. I still have lots of ribbon. There's the sequin mix. Quite a few ephemera pieces. I still have 4 of the wood pieces and 4 more of those pre-tied bows. There's the stamp set, the dies, which I didn't use all of them, and of course the peel-off sheet, which I will use on other projects. So I could easily make quite a few more cards, and I also have some leftovers of that 12 by 12 add-on pack. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.